Sarah suddenly slammed the brakes when a dark figure appeared right in front of her, in the middle of the road. In the headlights, she saw a dog. Wet, emaciated but determined. Her eyes burned in the dark, her paws firmly pressed into the asphalt. And behind her, shivering from the cold, were her little puppies. Sarah's heart pounded wildly. She was alone on the country road. The darkness stretched around her, and the only sound was the rain breaking the dead silence. She turned on the hazard lights, trying to comprehend what she was seeing. The dog didn't move. She wasn't jumping in front of the wheels by accident. She was deliberately standing in the way, not letting the car pass. "Come on, move," Sarah muttered, looking into the dog's eyes. She honked, but the dog didn't flinch. The puppies behind her whined pitifully, huddling together. Something was wrong. Sarah reached for her phone, about to call for help, but then, the dog made a strange movement. She didn't run away, didn't dart to the side, but slowly, almost pleadingly, lowered her head, and then stepped toward the car. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She had never seen a dog behave like this. She looked at the animal and it looked back at her. In that gaze there was something human, something desperate. "What do you want?" Sarah whispered, turning on the flashlight and carefully opening the car door. But the dog didn't back down. On the contrary, she took a step back as if inviting her to come out. Sarah's heart squeezed. What if something horrible was hiding behind this? Sarah took a deep breath before stepping out of the car. The cold air immediately pierced her skin, and the rain drummed on her shoulders. The flashlight in her hand illuminated the thin dog, whose wet fur clung to her body. She stood still, staring intently, her eyes pleading. The puppies behind her huddled together, whining softly. But something about the adult dog's behavior made Sarah uneasy. The dog didn't rush toward her, didn't show aggression, but she didn't run away either. She took another step back, then another, and stopped again. She was calling her to follow. "Do you want me to go with you?" Sarah whispered, not understanding why she was speaking out loud. The dog didn't move, her tail twitching nervously. Sarah looked at the puppies. Their tiny bodies were shaking, but they weren't running away. They weren't wild. They weren't afraid of people. Something wasn't right. Sarah looked around. There were no cars in sight. The road stretched into the darkness, hidden behind trees. She looked back at the dog. She stood like a statue, but her eyes spoke louder than any words. Something inside Sarah told her she needed to go. She carefully took a step forward. The dog immediately turned and darted toward the forest edge, but she didn't run away. She stopped again, turned, and waited. "Oh my God," Sarah muttered, feeling a rising sense of unease, but she couldn't just get in the car and leave. Looking back at the puppies, she took a step forward, then another, until she was on the edge where the wet grass clung to her boots. The dog moved forward again. Sarah followed her. Each step she took was accompanied by the beating of her heart, which grew louder with each passing second. The rain was seeping under her jacket, slowing her down, but something inside urged her to move faster. Finally, amidst the sound of the raindrops and the pounding of her heart, another sound broke through. She froze. It was a moan, low, muffled, and human. Somewhere ahead, in the dark, someone was there. Sarah froze. The darkness of the forest seemed to come alive. The dog growled again, the fur on her neck standing on end. Something was moving among the trees. "Who's there?" Sarah's voice trembled, but she tried to remain calm. The man she was supporting struggled to lift his head. He swallowed. "It's my." At that moment, a faint squeak came from the bushes. Sarah lifted the flashlight and pointed it forward, and gasped. In front of her, standing close together, were two children. Dirty, frightened. The eyes of the boy, about 8 years old, were wide with fear. He instinctively shielded the small girl behind him, who was trembling and clutching something ragged in her hands. "Daddy?" the little girl whispered hoarsely. The man gasped. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. These were his children. "Oh God," he exhaled. "You're here. You're alive." He tried to step toward them, but his legs buckled. Sarah struggled to grasp what was happening. They were here. This whole time? Her voice cracked. "Yes." The man barely managed to breathe. We got into an accident. The car slid off the road. I hit my head, lost consciousness. And the dog suddenly moved closer to the children. gently nudging her nose into the boy's palm. He gasped and pressed closer to her. Sarah understood. This dog had been protecting them the whole time, not letting anyone pass, seeking help, and she had succeeded. "Everything's okay," the man said hoarsely, reaching trembling hands toward the children. "Everything is okay now." Sarah closed her eyes. Tears stung them. She remembered how just a few hours ago, she had irritably thought about the dog blocking the road, how wrong she had been. She stepped closer, carefully crouching in front of the children. "You did well," she said quietly, trying to speak gently, without too much emotion. "We'll get you out of here, okay? You're going to a warm house. Hot food. Everything will be okay." The boy cried, and then Sarah couldn't hold back anymore. She pulled them to her, letting them know they were safe. When the car drove onto the road, the children were already asleep, wrapped in blankets. The dog sat beside them, keeping her eyes on them like a loyal guardian, like a hero who didn't give up. Sarah looked at her and sighed. "You saved them. You're a real angel." The dog looked at her in return, and then quietly laid her head on the little girl's lap, guarding her even in her sleep. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on our best heartwarming stories.